On World News tonight, another confirmation controversy for George W. Bush. The Democrats wonder if they have another opening. Bad storms and rolling blackouts in California. Is there an energy crisis that may affect the nation's economy? An American pilot shot down during the Persian Gulf War, given up as dead 10 years ago. Now the Pentagon says he may be missing. Florida's Secretary of State, her first interview since the election with Diane Sawyer. And the genetically modified monkey that is part jellyfish.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We're going to begin in Washington tonight. George W. Bush named 2 more people he wants in his cabinet today. And today, another of his nominees, in this case for Secretary of the Interior Gail Norton, was the latest target for Democrats who would like to see her fail. Democrats are already gunning for Mr. Bush's choice for Attorney General, former Senator John Ashcroft. And so with little more than a week to go until the inauguration, there should be no doubt that the political battle, which was the election itself, is still in full swing. Go to Washington and ABC's Terry Moran. Terry.
Well, Peter, every day brings new signs that the confirmation game is getting even rougher.
Just 2 days after his first Labor Secretary nominee withdrew from the confirmation battlefield, Mr. Bush tried again.
Thank you.
Elaine Chao is his new pick for the Labor post, an official in previous GOP administrations and former president of the United Way. Also named to the Bush cabinet, Robert Zoellick to be U.S. Trade Representative. These two now plunge into the maelstrom of confirmation politics, where the Bush team is already facing battles on a couple of fronts. Attorney General nominee John Ashcroft, under fire from a coalition of liberal and civil rights groups, was on Capitol Hill today meeting with victims' rights advocates, part of a conservative counterattack on his behalf.
He's a good man. He's got a good heart.
In sharp contrast to his tepid defense of Linda Chavez, the president-elect backed Ashcroft to the hilt.
I'm confident he's going to be confirmed, and if somebody asks a question, am I standing behind him? Absolutely. I mean, he's going to do a really good job.
There are other storm clouds over Interior Secretary-designate Gail Norton, already opposed by environmentalists, who discovered a speech she gave in 1996 in which she defended the states' rights arguments of the Confederacy during the Civil War and characterized the battle over slavery and states' rights in a way some found racially insensitive. Bush blasted those critics.
I'd say that's just a ridiculous interpretation of what's in her heart. She in no way, shape, or form was talking about any value to slavery.
And the president-elect also fired back at the president after Bill Clinton said 2 days ago that he believes Al Gore really won the election.
When they counted the ballots in the state of Florida, I won. And he can say what he wants to say, but January the 20th, I'll be honored to be sworn in as the president.
That's the kind of combative spirit that Mr. Bush's allies say he'll need in abundance if he wants to make sure that all of his nominees make it safely through the confirmation gauntlet. Peter?
Thanks very much, Terry Moran. In Washington, on Capitol Hill today, George W. Bush's choice for defense secretary got a warm welcome from senators at his confirmation hearing. Donald Rumsfeld had the same job under President Ford. Today, he strongly supported the idea of a national missile defense system, a controversial issue which could turn into a real political fight. In Washington today, the Navy took the exceptional step of bringing a man back from the dead. A 33-year-old pilot shot down over Iraq, the first American listed as killed in the Persian Gulf War. Here's ABC's John Martin.
When Lieutenant Commander Scott Spiker's plane went down over Iraq during the first night of the Gulf War, the Pentagon listed him as killed in action, possibly hit by a missile.
The total U.S. losses are 1 aircraft and 1 individual.
But years later, evidence began turning up that suggests he may have survived the crash. Visitors to the site found the canopy of his F-18 jet far enough from the fuselage to indicate he could have ejected. A flight suit was found near the F-18. Just 6 months ago, the Navy said it had not given up hope of finding out what happened.
This is very much an issue that we have not closed out.
Now, citing reports it will not reveal to the public, the Pentagon says it is no longer clear that the pilot died in combat. Today, the Pentagon officially changed Spiker's status from killed to missing.
A senior defense official told ABC News the U.S. will not release intelligence information on the small chance the pilot is still alive. even though almost no one here believes that he is still alive.
The U.S. government, under international law, has now demanded that Iraq account for a missing combatant.
We believe they hold additional information, and they are obligated to provide that information to help resolve the case of Commander Spiker.
Spiker's widow said in a statement today she is encouraged and heartened by the demand to Iraq. Late today, the Pentagon announced that she will now receive back pay and compensation until his status is finally determined. John Martin, ABC News, Washington.
Our other lead story today comes from California. A vicious winter storm was hit just about every part of the state in the past 24 hours. 20-foot waves crashed into coastal homes. There was no driving through the weather in parts of Los Angeles last night, and in other places, roads just disappeared under the water. There was chaos everywhere. There was water. In other parts of the state, it was crippling snow and whiteouts, 3 feet. At Lake Tahoe, there hasn't been a storm of this dimension in the last 3 years. The storm has made the already energy mess in the state even worse. Parts of Los Angeles lost power as a result of the storm, and now there's a stage 3 power alert, which means that many more Californians will be without power until the emergency is over. The deregulation of the energy industry in California is causing one problem after another. And as ABC's Betsy Stark reports tonight, it may soon be more than a California problem.
California's largest utility says as bad as things are now,
just hours from now, rolling blackouts could begin for the
it could be a lot worse a month from now. Unless the governor steps in with an emergency loan, PG&E says it will be unable to supply its 13 million customers with natural gas or electricity. The company will go bankrupt, and the impact will extend far beyond the state.
If you have a situation that occurs where the state's utilities, in fact, do default on their financial obligations, this has a ripple effect that will impact a number of financial institutions throughout the country.
From Wall Street to the White House, California's energy problems are becoming a national concern.
When you face a potential electricity crisis in a state that represents such a large part of our country and our economy, there is potential economic downside if this is not handled right.
One reason economists are worried is because the timing could not be worse.
It just adds more stress to an already weakened U.S. economy.
Particularly because California is so huge. It's not only the largest economy among the 50 United States, accounting for 12% of the nation's $8 trillion economy, it is the 7th largest economy in the world, producing more goods and services than China, Canada, or Brazil. Much of what California produces is for export. When energy drives up the cost of producing Silicon Valley computer chips or California cauliflower, the entire U.S. export economy takes a hit. And if California's 34 million consumers have less money to spend because their gas and electric bills are so high, car makers in Detroit and even in Japan feel the squeeze. Some economists say the ripple effects from the California energy crunch are not just national, they're global. For now, California is thinking local, trying to keep the lights on day to day. Betsy Stark, ABC News, New York.
When we come back, some of the day's other news. The 10-year-old boys who murdered a 2-year-old. The British government gives the killers a new life. And Florida's Secretary of State Katherine Harris's interview with Diane Sawyer. Ms. Harris believes she did the right thing during the Florida election.
You can have your preferences, but you're not going to do something illegal or go around the law.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, brought to you by the Home Depot.
The Home Depot is driving down the cost of home improvement. Ah, the age-old dilemma. Too much stuff and no place to put it. Come to the Home Depot this weekend. We can show you how to hang it, store it, stack it, or pack it. Now's the time, and we are the place. Take this handy 10-foot closet organizer from Mills Pride. It's only $49.97. It assembles in minutes, and it's the perfect way to make even the smallest spaces work harder. A place for everything and everything in one place. The Home Depot, driving down the cost of home improvement.
I need to feel strong.
I need her.
Because we all need something different to feel our best. One A Day has created different formulas. One especially for women. One for men. One for people over 50. One a day. We've got just what you need.
Hi. How much will you give me for these?
Nah, I can't use these.
Come on, you can give me something.
No, I don't think so.
Will you work with me here? Make me an offer?
Let me think. No.
What will you do with all your old antacids now that there's new Pepcid Complete? It's the only one that starts to neutralize acid in seconds and lasts for hours, all with a single tablet. New Pepcid Complete. Just one, and heartburn's done.
President Clinton said today that the United States deeply regrets the shooting of 50 unarmed Korean civilians by American troops during the Korean War at this bridge in the hamlet of Nogan-ri. Mr. Clinton didn't formally apologize. A Pentagon report concludes that the shootings happened, but said they were not carried out under orders. In the Netherlands today, the woman charged with genocide, former Bosnian Serb President Biljana Plavšić, pleaded not guilty to 9 counts of war crimes committed during the violent breakup of Yugoslavia. She is charged with assisting in the ethnic cleansing that systematically killed thousands of Muslims and Croats between 1992 and 95. In Britain today, the case of the murderer is about to return to society. 8 years ago, the whole country was horrified by the death of James Bulger, a toddler who was brutally killed by 2 other children. Today, his killers are on the verge of going free, because that is what the law provides for. Here's ABC's Bob Woodruff.
James Bulger was only 2 when he was killed. His murderers, John Venables and Robert Thompson, were only 10. In a scene captured by security cameras, they abducted James from a mall, led him down a railroad track, and beat him to death. His mother can hardly bear to think about it.
You mustn't forget that they tortured my baby before they killed him, and then they tried to cover up their tracks by lying his body across the railway line as if it was an accident so a train would hit him.
Now Thompson and Venables are 18. Their sentence is over. Within months, they will be set free, most likely within 100 miles of where the murder took place. To help them blend into society, they will be given new identities, new passports, and the media will be prohibited from revealing anything about their new lives. Unprecedented protections for convicted murderers. The protections were granted in part because of fears for their safety. The anger directed at the boys 8 years ago is still strong. James Bulger's father has threatened to hunt down and kill his son's murderers.
If they are discovered, what do you think will happen to them?
I fear for their lives. But there is also widespread fear that the justice system is going too far to protect James Bulger's killers.
The precedent that it sets is that basically if you can show that you are in danger from other people, that you will be given anonymity. The court will allow you to exist in our society without the media having a right to identify you.
Juvenile justice experts in the U.S. say Americans would never tolerate such protections.
I think people would be shocked. I think there would be calls for the impeachment of the judge.
James Bulger's mother is now frightened. She may never know where her son's murderers are.
I don't want to be walking around a shopping centre to think that they're in that same shopping centre as me.
These young men will be out of prison, beginning their new lives by summer. Bob Woodruff, ABC News, London.
There is another but lesser example today of what the authorities can do in Canada. Police in Vancouver have a radical way to discourage drunk driving, public humiliation. Police are proposing that anyone convicted of driving under the influence be forced to display a very large D for drunk in their rear window. When we come back, we'll revisit the great Texas escape.
Any full-size SUV can tackle the wilderness. Coping with the urban jungle also matters to engineer Thad Stump. For the Yukon XL, his team completely re-engineered the suspension and tightened the turning radius to make the Yukon XL surprisingly agile. Thad knows that while SUVs have gotten bigger, parking spaces have not.
Dad, why
Why do you shave?
Because I don't want a beard.
Why do you wear a tie?
That's easy, because I have to.
Dad, why do you always eat Cheerios?
Because Daddy's cholesterol's kind of high.
And a study shows the whole grain oats in Cheerios can help lower cholesterol when part of a low-fat diet.
Why do you have high cholesterol?
Well, because Daddy used to eat not such good things before he met Mommy.
Daddy?
The one and only Cheerios.
It's been a long time coming. But I'm leaving you in good hands. Sarah?
Thanks, Dad. Taking care of business. In business, you can count on things to change. That's why millions of companies count on Office Depot to help them take care of business. Taking care of business.
Just how powerful are new Whisk laundry tablets? Introducing Whisk Dual Action Tablets, a new form of detergent so infused with stain-fighting enzymes, it's as if dirt never happened at all. Whisk Dual Action Tablets.
Tomorrow, breakthrough medical technology that can help win the race against time. Detecting disease cells in an instant. Life-saving information on Good Morning America tomorrow.
He took the spirit of the sport and elevated it.
Sports Century, the top 15 beyond. Weeknights at 8, only on ESPN Classic.
In Texas today, state officials said that in the wake of the Great Escape a month ago, several prison guards may lose their jobs. The 7 members of the Connolly Gang, so named for the Connolly prison from which they escaped, are still on the loose. Today, the Department of Criminal Justice released its report on the escape. There were several missed opportunities to catch the men in the process. A prison guard walked into the maintenance shop the inmates had taken over and didn't notice anything wrong. Prison guards who were taken hostage managed to pull a fire alarm, but no one investigated. Let's take a closer look. Here's ABC's Mike Von Fremd.
There was furious finger-pointing because of the escape. One of the guards, Alejandro Marroquin, stormed out of today's news conference. He was held hostage by the escapees and says the report ruins his reputation.
They're making us look bad. Now I can't go look for a job anywhere because they're going to say, well, he was part of the Connolly 7.
The mother of the police officer who was allegedly murdered by the escapees says the blame goes much higher than the guards.
They certainly are accountable, but so are you. So is the governor. It starts at the top.
Prison officials admit they were ultimately outsmarted by one of the most clever gang leaders in Texas history, George Rivas, who was serving 17 life sentences. This sporting goods store clerk was held hostage by Rivas on Christmas Eve.
What's it like looking into George Rivas's eyes?
It was terrifying to look at him. Just, I don't know if it was because he had a gun or if it was just because he controlled whether I was going to live or die that day.
He wants to keep his identity a secret because he remembers what George Rivas said to him.
Just be calm and do what we say, and no one's going to die. But if we have to shoot one person, everyone's going to die.
While the clerk was being held hostage, he heard shooting outside. It was Officer Aubrey Hawkins being killed.
I had my eyes closed with my head against the wall. They had just left. I was just praying to God that they wouldn't come back in whenever we heard the gunshots.
During the robbery, the gang members called Rivas Jefe, Spanish for boss. Dr. Richard Coons was Rivas's court-appointed psychiatrist.
George is a leader. He's methodical. He's a manipulator.
When Rivas went into the sporting goods store, he passed himself off as a security guard.
And he said, I need all of the employees to look at these photos of someone who has been shoplifting.
And the sporting goods employees fell for it.
I think he was very cunning and very, very precise. He knew exactly what he was doing. He's not just a normal criminal.
A difficult criminal who's now been on the run for 30 days. Mike Von Fremd, ABC News, Dallas.
When we come back, Florida's Katherine Harris, standing firm and still standing.
When dentures dream, they see the perfect denture cleanser. One with the stain-fighting power of Efferdent and the freshening power of Listerine. Well, little friend, dream no more. It's really here. It's called Efferdent Plus. It's extra fresh, and nothing gets your dentures cleaner. Efferdent Clean and Listerine Fresh. That's Efferdent Plus.
With Hotmail on your MSN homepage, you can check your email wherever there's a web connection. That's why it's the most popular email the world over.
This has more calcium than Tums?
It's true. Maalox Quick Dissolve Chewables have more calcium than regular Tums.
That's even better.
And they dissolve faster than Tums.
I'm gonna go for the Maalox.
Quick dissolve your heartburn away and get more calcium.
No doubt about it.
If you have arthritis pain, there's reason to celebrate. It's Celebrex.
Celebrate, celebrate, come on and celebrate.
Powerful 24-hour relief from osteoarthritis pain and stiffness. Celebrex, the first arthritis medicine that targets only the COX-2 enzyme.
Celebrate, celebrate, come on and celebrate.
Celebrex should not be taken if you've had aspirin-sensitive asthma or allergic reactions due to aspirin or other arthritis medicines, or certain drugs called sulfonamides. In rare cases, serious stomach problems such as bleeding can occur without warning. Tell your doctor if you have kidney or liver problems.
Celebrate, celebrate, come on and celebrate.
Ask your doctor about Celebrex. Celebrex, the #1 selling brand of prescription arthritis medicine.
Celebrate, celebrate, come on and celebrate.
In Florida today, the U.S. Civil Rights Commission held a hearing into the state's controversial presidential vote. Civil rights groups allege that many minorities were prevented from voting. Florida Governor Jeb Bush testified he will not be doing his own investigation because so many others are now in progress. Florida Secretary of State, who was such a controversial figure during the post-election drama, has given her first interview. Katherine Harris certified the election for George W. Bush before some Florida counties had done all the recounts they had wanted to. She has been hailed by some and demonized by others. Here's ABC's Diane Sawyer.
Cheesy things in the middle of the carpet.
In the picture behind her desk, she is flanked by the brothers Bush, Jeb and George. She has a new fish she calls Chad. And after all the controversy, all that time in the white-hot glare of the spotlight, Katherine Harris is sticking to her guns, saying whatever the confusion about some ballots, her decisions were right about the law.
You had to hear people saying, it's not fair, it's not fair. I try not to use the word fair. I think fair is so important. But what's fair to one may not be fair to another. For me, I had to focus on what was legal.
Is it possible that Al Gore did win this election?
You know, I can't speculate. I have no idea. I mean, I really...
But is it possible? Is it possible?
I think anything's possible in this. I really... Well, I can't say it is or not. I mean, there's just simply no way I can know.
And what about the way she was targeted, her hair, her makeup, how she was vilified by the Democrats?
I mean, anybody who appears in public like she did yesterday, looking like Cruella de Vil coming to steal the puppies, is not very interested in what other people think about it.
She had death threats, hired a bodyguard, but the lowest point...
Perhaps the most difficult moment was when one person said they were disappointed the Ryder truck that everyone was watching on TV.
And for a few brief moments, America held the hope that O.J. Simpson had murdered Katherine Harris.
That was not pleasant.
But Katherine Harris says she had plenty of supporters, and they say don't count her out. Though she's not heard from President-elect Bush and has no plans for a job in his administration. She says if she reforms Florida's voting system, the next step will be clear.
As long as I do a good job, I believe the future's going to take care of itself.
You can see the rest of the interview later this evening on Primetime Thursday and at abcnews.com. Next on our broadcast this evening, a little science. What do you get when you cross a monkey with the jellyfish.
Look at that. Staples has overnight delivery.
Slow down, let me see.
Wow, it's free. Hey, look.
Guaranteed low prices. Slow down. Staples delivers.
And you can order online. This traffic's terrible.
Yep, like this every single day.
That's really weird.
Need office products delivered overnight? Yeah, we've got that. Call 1-800-STAPLES.
Women want you to believe they have to suffer to stay in shape. But what about Kellogg's Special K? Does that look like suffering to you? Delicious, lightly toasted flakes and only 110 calories? Doesn't sound so bad to me. Maybe it's time for me to do the Special K thing.
Kellogg's Special K. Looking good never tasted so great.
James Dean. Even the name was cool. There's no cooler name than James Dean. Don't even try to think of one. Wind would get up in the morning just to blow through James Dean's hair. He had a chiseled jaw, a chiseled body, and a car that was fitting of James Dean. James Dean was cool. This moment of cool has been brought to you by .tv. It reminds you, don't get a .com web address. Sign up for a .tv one. It's just cool.
Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Dunn. Coming up next on K2 News, it's a new proposal using an old idea with hopes to connect the Rose City to Vancouver. A plan to use light rail reemerges. And the altered state of animal research. Scientists announced the first genetically modified rhesus monkey. K2 News is coming up next. Hope to see you then.
Tomorrow, there's a time to profit and a time to panic. If you're one of the millions riding the Wall Street wave, ask yourself this. Do you know what time it is? Watch World News Tonight.
Finally from us this evening, for the second time in a week, there are monkeys in the news. First, it was uncontrolled monkeys in the Indian capital Delhi, thousands of them doing all sorts of damage to government buildings. But safe, it seems, from being treated as pests because they are sacred to India's millions of Hindus. And now, in Oregon, it's the DNA monkey, the one that science has created, the world's first genetically modified monkey. The result of a monkey egg injected with the DNA of a jellyfish. He's called Andy. Inserted DNA spelled backwards. He doesn't look any different from his playmates in a Portland lab, but scientists who've had success with jellyfish DNA before believe they can go on from here to insert monkey eggs with genes that cause disease, which may get science closer to a cure. That is our report on World News Tonight. On Nightline this evening, part 4 of the Clinton years, the Monica Lewinsky scandal. I'm Peter Jennings. We hope you have a good evening. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
Tonight, a primetime exclusive.
Do you think you won this election for George Bush?
Katherine Harris.
What is your relationship with George Bush?
Diane Sawyer.
What is your relationship to Jeb Bush?
Finally, she answers all the questions. Primetime tonight.
Connecting you to your world. This is K2 News.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Steve Dunn.
I'm Paul Lenman. Thanks for joining us. The idea of interstate light rail is back. In his State of the City speech today, Vancouver's mayor says it's time to put plans in motion.
And K2's Dan